Hey folks, welcome back to the shop. Been quite the afternoon trying to put all this together for you guys, but had some requests to see kind of a similar result with the 410 TSS duplex load. I have a bunch of 410 patterns, but I didn't ever do the graduated patterning like I did on the 28 gauge video that I had put out, a few days ago or whatever. So I went out to the farm and I was like, well, you know what? Let me just do one of these graduated, incremental patternings of 410. So that's what I did. This is a load that I've put together a few years ago. It's the same load that I did a video on probably about a year ago. It's a 3-inch 410 in the AA HS hull, 4/8 ounce of number 10 TSS, and an eighth of an ounce of steel shot. Not a lot of steel shot in this load. I just put it in there to let it, open up the pattern. And of course, we'll see that. I actually took some gear with me today, so I'm going to try to, with editing, again, I'm not a big movie production video guy, but I did take a camera to the farm and got some video of me shooting these patterns. And then after that, I'll mark them up, and then we'll go to the other end of the shop and take a look at them and see what they look like. And all the patterning was done with this is a TriStar Viper G2 28 gauge, very popular. Used to be very economical, not so much anymore. But anyway, 410 is real popular. I was using the factory improved cylinder choke in all the patterning. I have never tried anything less restrictive as far as like skeet or cylinder in this gun. When I first got it, I did shoot some modified through it, thought maybe that would work, but it tends to blow out the pattern. And that's something that I found with 28 gauge too, is once you get above about improved cylinder on the heavier than lead stuff, HW13, HW15, and the TSS, it almost seems like the more restriction, it actually blows the pattern out when I'm duplexing. Now, people that are turkey hunting will tell you different, and I'm sure it's fine. And it could be the velocities that we're dealing with too. I know with steel for sure, and I learned this today. I did a lot of patterning today with 28 gauge. 410 was just a part of it. But I'm working on some 3-inch 28 gauge stuff. And kind of the same thing is playing out with the 28 gauge. What I'm working on is, the higher I get in velocity, the more blown out a pattern's getting, which is going to require more constriction. And of course, that was steel shots what I was messing with today. But anyway, improved cylinder choke on the Viper G2. I've shot this same load out of a yield is over and under 410, and similar results. A yield is side by side, similar results. A TriStar pump 410, similar results. Of course, it should be. It's basically the same gun except it's a pump action. So again, similar results in this. One thing I will say too, I mentioned this back in the video that I did when I was loading these rounds. if you have a semi-automatic, the TriStar or any semi-autos, they really don't like the Cheddite, Fiocchi, the Remington, the ribbed hulls. They for some reason they just don't like to load. Matter of fact, there's some commercial manufacturers that even say on their websites, by the way, these shells are not recommended in automatic, semi-auto 410s. So if you load these, and I would say the loading parameters as far as pressures and stuff, you can do this load in a Cheddite, a Fiocchi, or a Remington ribbed hull. Just keep in mind, it's pretty difficult to get them to be sized and work perfectly in a semi-auto. I've had much better luck in the pump, but I've still had some issues in the pump even. But if you have a side-by-side or an over and under, you're not going to have issues, or even a single shot. So, but anyway, let's take a look at some of the shots. I'll show you the patterns and we'll go from there. All right, folks, so this is going to be 15 yards with 410 improved cylinder choke. Let's see what it looks like. .410 TSS at 25 yards. TSS Duplex at 35 yards. .410 TSS at 45 yards. Okay, .410 TSS. Let me let this truck go by. .410 TSS, 55 yards. Obviously doing pattern expansion. One thing that I don't think a lot of people understand, holy moly, 55 yards is a poke. I guess I say that because I'm used to hunting over decoys. Lever shots might be 40, 45 yards, but 55 yards is out there. But anyway, let me go ahead and shoot this. All right, so let's look at these patterns. First, let's talk a little bit about the characteristics of the load. Number 10 TSS, there's 244 number 10 pellets in this load. There's only 21 to 22 number 4 steel in this. So this is number 10 TSS, number 4 steel. So this is the 15-yard shot that we took. Let me kind of separate this so you can see that a little bit better. So obviously, again, this is much like the 28 gauge, pattern at 15 yards. We can almost put our hand over top of all 244 pellets. Now, the big difference is we don't see the steel, blooming out like it does on the 28. I don't really intend for it to do that because myself, when I put this load together, I didn't intend for the steel to really do any killing, if you want to call it that. So, but anyway, 30-inch circle. So we've got, probably 15, 20 inches of that circle completely covered, which I guess is what you would expect almost on any kind of shot at 15 yards. But anyway, if you were shooting straight TSS, I'm telling you, it would be tighter. And if you've ever shot it, you'll know that. Now, let's go look at 25. Get this off. Okay, so this is 25 yards. Now, you can see how it is starting to open up. Again, 244 and 21. At 25 yards, every single pellet in this load, even the steel, is still inside a 30-inch circle. But we're starting to open it up. There's still a pretty good peppering of pellets inside of this round, okay? But that's 25 yards, it's pretty close. So let's go to 35 yards. Now, 35 yards is where we really start seeing this thing, start to look and perform like a bigger gauge, if you want to call it that. not a 410. Keep in mind, number 10 TSS, and I think this is what a lot of people get confused by, this stuff hits like number 1 steel. I know that sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but it has 1.5 inches gel penetration at 50 yards, 49.8 yards. So this stuff is motoring right along at 35 yards. Now the pattern you can see is really filling up. We got a few of the TSS's outside of the circle, but all 244 are on this paper, okay? So again, we got a little splotchy stuff going on, but look, every pattern is going to vary. If I shot 5 patterns at 35 yards, they're all going to look different. But again, this is what this thing does. Now, so 45 yards. At 45 yards, man, this thing is really, really starting to shine. And of course, 40 was what everybody really patterns at. That's what you're supposed to pattern at, technically, is in between the two. But man, look at this. There's 233 TSS on the paper. I didn't count to see how many are outside of the circle. I mean, I could do that and put it in the comments or something. But anyway, that is to me, that's a very nice pattern. And that's 45 yards. The TSS 10, it's actually, it's gonna kill out to 50, probably, 55 yards. Of course, that's the last pattern I did. So let's take a look at 55. When I marked these up, this is what I found interesting. 55 doesn't look a whole lot different than 45. We've now only got 224 TSS on the whole entire paper. So obviously this thing is opening up. Here's what's interesting too. There's a couple of spots. So the circles that you actually see circles, that's the steel shot. So you can see the steel. There's actually a steel shot right there, and it literally just dented this this pattern material. It didn't even go through, but that was a steel shot. So that's how much energy's gone at 55 yards from number 4 steel. It made me think of a comment I read the other day about effective range of a particular gauge, and somebody says, well, it just depends on your pattern density. Let me tell you something, this whole thing could be filled up with number 4 shot and it ain't killing nothing at 55 yards. I'm just telling you. But anyway, 55 yards, that's impressive. Now, I wouldn't well, let's go back to pattern density. Even though this pattern is probably going to hold out and look lethal, Christ, it might even look lethal at 65 or 70 yards, but you have to understand every size of shot has its limits depending on the velocity. This round right here is running about 1,275 feet per second. It's not super fast, but you know, for what it is for number 10 shot with this amount of shot, you know, it's got the power to penetrate downrange down to, you know, 50, 55 yards. Now beyond that, nah, probably not. You're probably just gonna knock feathers off something. So again, even though we say the word TSS, it doesn't mean, you know, that, I mean, they're all going to kill at 80 yards. Obviously, it depends on the shot size. But anyway, so that's the progressive patterning from TSS Duplex and the 410. I'm gonna tell you guys, this thing smashes ducks. I've killed a bunch of ducks with this round, anywhere from, you know, 10 to friggin' 45, 50 yards. I mean, I know it will. I've done it. So, pretty good round. Thanks.